So perhaps you could fill us in on a little bit of the history and how our county came to be in the first place.
It's Our County actually came out of a campaign which was based around how Hereford should grow. It was primarily a campaign against a new multinational retail shopping centre that was being attached to the side of our city centre, which is of course now being built. We weren't successful in stopping that. But it was the coming together of quite a lot of like-minded people who wanted Herefordshire to grow not in the bog standard way that everywhere else has grown, but to actually grow in that kind of curiously Herefordshire way that we all know Herefordshire's got. It's a very Herefordian thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we discovered that you couldn't stand for election on the council and not be called an independent unless you formed a political party. And then you were allowed to call yourself whatever your political party was called. So we formed It's Our County so that we could actually have a name on the ballot box rather than just be called independents, because independents on the council tend not to function very much like a group. And we actually wanted something that said, this is what we stand for, we believe in localism, we believe in Herefordshire, and we want to do what's best by Herefordshire. And that's where It's Our County became to be formed. We started in 2010, 9 months before the election in 2011, and we got 9 councillors elected in the elections of 2011, which is pretty spectacular.
Pretty good start, isn't it? Okay, moving on from there, there's a lot of problems being raised by the Tory cabinet of the council at the moment, not the least of them trying to shut down all our public services. Now, I'm campaigning for the libraries and museums specifically, but I'm feeling that I have to widen it out much further and go out to saving our services altogether.
I think it's very difficult because from what we're saying at It's Our County is that there is a national picture of mega austerity. That austerity has now been going for, well, it's 2013, 4 or 5 years now.
5 years now, yeah.
And it's just getting worse. It's not, the situation nationally isn't improving, and internationally isn't improving. And we don't see how, with the cuts that are coming online already, the cuts that have happened already, the cuts that are coming online, and the cuts that are predicted to happen, and continuing way into 2018, another 5 years worth of cuts, we don't see how the level of services that were being supported by the council can continue into the future. What we're very angry about is that we don't believe the local council here has been honest with people. They haven't come out and honestly said, we can't do this anymore. They've cut by stealth, they have passed budgets that they haven't been able to achieve, and we've ended up with them creating a crisis this year, whereby they passed a budget in February which we stood up and said, this is an unachievable budget, and you're going to be in a worse position because you've passed this budget than if you admit you can't fund things. And a month into the budget after they passed it, they admit it's an unachievable budget, and suddenly we're in a worse position. It's exactly what we said would be the case. And that's when you produce the political scenario that you can come in with your great big scythe and cut radically the services that are supposed to be funded by our council. We felt that this discussion should have started 2 or 3 years ago, when there was still a little bit of money in the system, where we could have said, let's find new mechanisms of providing those services, because I don't think the council is a safe place for those services anymore.
Certainly doesn't seem so at the moment.
Cuts won't stop, and we need that conversation with the county, with the people of the county. We need to be asking them, what's important to you? You know, the museum has all our local history in it. It's been donated over hundreds of years, and it's supposed to be held in perpetuity. But is it safe with the council? I'm not sure it is anymore. So we have to find a way of supplying those services at less cost to the council or no cost to the council in the long run. And one of our arguments is maybe next year, because we're already in this very tight budget situation, maybe next year we should be asking the people of Herefordshire, we want to put an extra couple of % on your council tax for a 5-year period, which will be ring-fenced for the saving of those services, for finding a way of putting those services out into the community, run by different organisations and not the council. We can possibly do that over 5 years instead of what they're saying they're going to do over 2, which I think will just close the services. And we might be able to save them and find a way of producing those services in a different format without cutting them completely. You think of the theatre. If we cut our grant to the Courtyard Theatre over the next 2 years, they will not only have to replace the money they receive from Herefordshire Council, but also the Arts Council. We need to have a big discussion with the Arts Council about how they are going to continue to support arts in Herefordshire before we cut the theatre, because otherwise they'll cut it too, and it'll simply close. That's happened in Somerset. The Taunton Brewhouse has closed. So it's about negotiating our way through that. It's not good. Nobody's winning here. Nobody's going to win, and if we don't win a referendum, well, nobody's a winner. But I think we should try.
The dossier was just released in the last couple of days from Unison, sort of saying that the cuts have gone so far that there's no more to cut. I just wondered if you'd like to comment on that.
Well, I haven't actually seen the Unison dossier, but I understand where they're coming from on that. And what we have at the moment is central government pursuing this austerity programme. I don't understand the economics of it. I'm not going to pretend I do. But it is clear that they could they could take a different approach economically to just austerity. They could actually pump some money into the economy from the central government. Whilst we have this current government in power, I don't believe they will change their approach radically to the economic situation that the country as a whole is facing and Europe is facing. I can quite see where Unison's coming from. You are actually undermining social cohesion by the level and speed with which you are applying these cuts. And that's my biggest problem. Social cohesion in Herefordshire, I think, is going to begin to be quite destabilised over the next few years.
In the libraries now, it's getting to the point where you can't even get a book in from a neighbouring library if they haven't got it in stock. There surely is a breakdown of the library service even further, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the gradual kind of dilapidation of it, or the depreciation of it. I mean, as I understand it, Herefordshire's libraries are the most poorly funded library service in the country, or up until recently they were, and they do a fantastic job on the budget they're given. I think it's death by 1,000 cuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
You cut a little bit, you cut a little bit, you cut a little bit more, and you never actually make any improvements to the service, or never look at new ways of improving the service. Salami slicing is very bad for services. It doesn't give a strategic approach to how you're going to deliver the service. But let's be in no doubt, Herefordshire Council, all councils, have got a statutory responsibility under the 1964 Act, I think it was 1964, to provide a comprehensive library service. And comprehensive is quite difficult in an area like Herefordshire. You know, if you're in Hackney, nowhere's more than 2 or 3 miles away, and there's a fantastic bus service throughout the borough. So providing one central library in Hackney, they might be able to get away with. But in Herefordshire, if you provide one central library in Hereford, that can in no way be called comprehensive. You know, there's a little library up in Lentwardine. I worry about the Lentwardine Library because I can't see it surviving. I can't see how the system, under the current budget cuts, will enable that to survive. And will the law say Lentwoodin's quite far enough away from its nearest library to actually make it illegal. That all needs to be tested in court, and I'm sure it will be tested.
Well, apparently it's an area that's twice the size of Cardiff.
That's right.
And it's 14 miles at least from its nearest town, and that's only a market town, not Hereford itself. So
yes. Lentwoodin, yes, 14 miles from its nearest market town. That won't be the main library in Herefordshire, but it's a question of how you work out whether a comprehensive library service is being delivered or not. We will absolutely see cuts in opening hours, we will see cuts in staffing levels, but as long as the council can say we're still providing a professional library service, then they might just be able to get under the bar of the legal requirement. What I think we need to be doing is looking at a different delivery model for libraries. If the council isn't providing it itself, it can still ensure that a comprehensive service is being provided, and a different delivery model might just free up all the money the council wastes in its bureaucracy. I'm sorry, but it does happen, and I know that we've cut a lot of that out of the system already, but I think voluntary groups or community groups or trusts might be able to provide the service at less cost.
No, trust is of course something that's missing at the moment.
Well, are you surprised that trust's missing? I think the way in which this council's has run its business since I became a councillor in 2007, I have been battering against a closed door. They do things in secret, they make decisions before they announce them, they don't have proper consultation, and it feels a bit like Herefordshire's been driven by central Tory party head office in London. Nothing to do with local people and local engagement. They have doggedly stuck to certain policies, despite the whole county saying, we don't like that, and not only telling them once, but telling them time and time and time again. They've got a dreadful reputation, and they've wasted a huge amount of our money. So yeah, are you surprised we don't trust them? I'm part of the council and I don't trust them. I think we've got some fabulous officers working really hard for the council who are really committed to providing public services. I think the way in which the political structures run the council services leave a lot to be desired.
Yes, I must admit I've noted in my blogs in recent days that it's easy to see the difference between the career politicians and the ones who actually really care about the community here. And thank you for coming out and giving us the time to sort of have your say on
No problem. Well, it's Castle Green, it's one of my favourite spots.
Yep, it's a well chosen spot.
Cool, thank you very much.
Thanks. Cheers, Mark.
No problem.
Prayer was just a nightmare, and you're waking with a shout. When you wake up to the crazy scene,
let all your hopes and fears, all your debts and arrears fly out of the window, never to appear again.
I'm not a politician. I am a librarian. There aren't that many of us left anymore. In fact, David's told me that we are potentially the next exhibition in the museum. Should the museum survive? I wanted to talk to you today because there is a feeling among some people that people will worry that we're just fighting for our jobs. We're not. We're fighting for services for the people of Herefordshire.
who you gonna turn to? When your money